Your English is not the real problem. Your brain is. Every time you try to speak, your mind secretly translates from your native language into English. That tiny delay is what makes you sound slow, unsure, and stuck. If you fix this one habit, your fluency can change faster than you expect. Welcome back to the channel. Most people think they need more vocabulary or better grammar to speak fluently. That sounds logical, but it is not the real issue. The real problem is happening inside your head before you even say a word. And once you understand this, everything about your learning process will start to shift. You may have noticed this already. You know the words, you understand English, but when it is your turn to speak, your mind goes blank. That is not a lack of knowledge. That is your brain struggling with the wrong process. And today, you are going to fix that. The real reason you hesitate while speaking. Every time you try to speak English, your brain does not start in English. It starts in your native language. You first build the sentence in your mind, then you begin converting it into English. This hidden step feels small, but it creates a noticeable delay when you speak. That delay is what turns into hesitation. You pause in the middle of sentences, you search for the right words, and your flow breaks again and again. Even when you understand everything clearly, speaking feels difficult because your brain is busy translating instead of expressing. Over time, this becomes a habit. Your mind gets trained to depend on translation for every sentence. So even simple thoughts feel heavy, and you begin to overthink basic communication. This is why you might feel confident while reading or listening, but not while speaking. This also affects your confidence in real conversations. You start worrying about making mistakes, choosing the right words, or forming the perfect sentence. That pressure slows you down even more, and the hesitation becomes more visible to others. The most frustrating part is that you actually know enough English. You have learned the words, you understand the structure, and you can recognize sentences easily. Yet, when it is time to speak, your brain creates resistance because it is following the wrong process. Another problem this creates is mental fatigue. Translating every sentence takes effort, so your brain gets tired quickly during conversations. That is why you may feel drained after speaking for a few minutes, even if the conversation was simple. It also blocks your natural reactions. In real life, conversations move fast. People expect quick responses, emotions, and expressions. But when you are stuck translating, you cannot react naturally, and that makes your speech sound robotic instead of confident. So, the problem is not your knowledge. It is your thinking pattern. You are trying to translate instead of directly thinking in English. And until this pattern changes, fluency will always feel just out of reach, no matter how much you practice. Why practice alone is not fixing your English. Most people believe that if they practice more, their English will automatically improve. So, they memorize vocabulary, revise grammar rules, and even watch hours of English content. It feels productive, but when it is time to speak, the same hesitation shows up again. The reason is simple. Practice is happening, but the core problem is still untouched. You are adding more words to your mind, but your brain is still following the same old translation process. So instead of becoming fluent, you are becoming overloaded. This creates a frustrating loop. You learn something new, feel confident for a moment, and then freeze in a real conversation. After that, you assume you need even more practice, and the cycle repeats again and again without real progress. Another issue is that most practice methods are passive. You read, you listen, you understand, but you are not actively forming thoughts in English. Your brain stays comfortable receiving the language, but it struggles when it has to produce it. Because of this, your speaking skill remains weak compared to your understanding. You may understand almost everything someone says, but when it is your turn, your mind slows down. That gap between understanding and speaking becomes very frustrating. Many learners also focus on perfection. They try to form the perfect sentence before speaking. This increases pressure and makes the translation process even slower. Instead of speaking naturally, you start editing your thoughts in your head. This is why practice alone is not enough. If the method is wrong, more practice will not fix the problem. It will only make the wrong habit stronger and harder to break over time. To improve your fluency, you do not just need more practice. You need the right kind of practice that trains your brain to think directly in English instead of translating every single thought. How to train your brain to think in English. Now that you understand the real problem, the solution becomes clear. You need to stop training your brain to translate and start training it to think directly in English. This shift may feel uncomfortable at first, but it is the key to natural fluency. Start with something very simple. Look around you and describe what you see in English. It does not need to be perfect. You can say basic sentences like, "I am sitting on a chair," or "The room is quiet." This helps your brain form thoughts without switching languages. Another powerful method is self-talk. Talk to yourself in English during your daily routine. While walking, eating, or working, try to express your thoughts in simple English. This builds a direct connection between your thinking and speaking. At the beginning, your sentences may feel broken or incomplete. That is completely fine. Fluency does not come from perfection. It comes from consistency and comfort with expressing ideas, even in a simple way. You should also reduce your dependence on translation. When you hear a new word, try to understand it using context or images instead of converting it into your native language. This trains your brain to stay inside English while learning. Another useful habit is thinking in short phrases instead of long sentences. Your brain processes small chunks faster. For example, instead of forming a long sentence, break it into smaller parts and speak step by step. This improves flow and reduces pressure. With time, your brain will adapt. The more you practice thinking in English, the less you will feel the need to translate. Your responses will become quicker, your speech will feel smoother, and your confidence will naturally increase. This is the shift that changes everything. When your brain starts thinking in English, speaking stops feeling like a task and starts feeling like a natural expression. The identity shift that changes everything. At this point, you need to understand something deeper. This is not just about improving your English. This is about changing how you see yourself when you communicate. Because fluency is not only a skill, it is also an identity. Right now, many learners see themselves as someone who is trying to speak English. That small belief creates pressure every time you open your mouth. It makes you careful, hesitant, and overly focused on mistakes instead of expression. To become fluent, you need to shift that identity. Start seeing yourself as someone who already communicates in English, even if it is simple. The moment you make this shift, your approach becomes more relaxed and natural. This change removes the fear of making mistakes. You stop aiming for perfection and start focusing on connection. And that is what real communication is about. Expressing your thoughts clearly, not perfectly. When your identity changes, your behavior follows. You start speaking more often. You stop avoiding conversations, and you become comfortable with being imperfect. That consistency is what builds real fluency over time. You also begin to trust your own voice. Instead of doubting every sentence, you allow yourself to speak freely. That confidence reflects in your tone, your speed, and your overall presence while speaking. The biggest transformation happens internally. You no longer feel like someone who struggles with English. You feel like someone who is growing in English every single day. And that mindset keeps you moving forward without frustration. This is the point where everything connects. When your thinking changes, your practice improves. When your identity shifts, your confidence rises. And when both come together, fluency stops feeling difficult and starts feeling natural. If you understand this, you are already ahead of most learners. Because now you are not just practicing English, you are fixing the way your brain works. And that is what actually creates real fluency. Remember this. It is not about using big words or speaking perfectly. It is about thinking clearly and expressing yourself without hesitation. Once you focus on that, everything else starts improving naturally. So, from today, stop translating every sentence in your head. Start thinking in English, even if it feels simple at first. That small change can completely transform the way you speak. If this helped you see English in a new way, make sure you stay consistent with it. Because consistency is what turns this understanding into real confidence. If this gave you clarity, drop a like and let it reach more people like you. Share this with someone who is still stuck translating in their head. Subscribe if you want to fix your English from the root, step by step. Comment one sentence in English right now and start the shift. Turn on the bell icon so you do not miss what can change your fluency next. Keep practicing, keep improving, and keep moving forward. Thank you for watching.